Hello, friends. I wanted to share in real time um, how I create with my husband and where I falter, right? Like, where, as a relationship coach, I bring these things that I teach into my own marriage, right? And so I want to speak candidly about that. And I've shared about it before, but it shows up, and it showed up recently with my husband, where I have this place where I'm like, I'll love all of him except for that part. And then, this is a fine line, because when I say loving that part doesn't mean appeasing that part, right? Um, but that there's space to receive all of him, and also champion and not accommodate patterns or ways of being that I think are really him abdicating his own power. Um, so there was just this circumstance where what I see in reflection is that I feel like my husband and I met our threshold for goodness. We call it upper limits. Katie Hendricks calls it the upper limit. And like when you meet this upper limit for like joy and connectedness, we start to like sabotage and bring it back to that set point of oh, okay, I can only have this much joy and happiness in my relationship. And I'm aware that I'm, part of co-creating this, right? And how I respond to how, whatever's showing up inside me and whatever's showing up inside my spouse. Like, we are co-creating what occurs here. And so I noticed that sometimes after like this beautiful expansion of like goodness and connection, there's this like weird contraction afterwards, right? Like, oh, that was too much joy and connection and love to hold. So like, let's bring it down to a place we're more comfortable with. Which means like, let's just get a little like icky with each other. Let's just get a little testy with each other. You know what I mean? Where you just like start getting like snippy, and you're like, I don't even know why I'm snippy right now, but it's happening, right? And I noticed this was happening coming from my husband. Like, he was getting like I would call it like little boy behavior, right? And this, I'm not throwing him under the bus here. I'm just speaking to like what's true. And I had a hard time loving that part of him. I was just like, dang it. Like, we had all this beautiful connection, and now here comes a little boy who has to sabotage all this goodness we've been creating. He's not allowed here, right? And I couldn't love that part of him. Now, there's some truth in like me witnessing that part of that, differing into that little boy, and trying to like go back to a set point of happiness that we can have. Like, I wanted to champion him too. Like, hey, like, let's notice what's going on here, and like, who really wants to show up here, and what does this little boy need, and the adult in you, what do you want to create together here? Like, let's just notice, like, whoa, let's just take a pause and just check in with what's going on and what we actually want to create. But I have to say, as much as I sound so maybe eloquent saying that now, I don't know if I sound eloquent, but I think you get what I'm saying. It's a mature response. I wasn't so great at actually carrying it out, because I was just like trying to force the mature response without receiving his little boy, right? So I couldn't receive his little boy. I was trying to like push for the mature response. Like, can't we just put the little boy, give him a cookie, and like do the mature response thing? And my unwillingness to be with his little boy, trusting that if we could just let the little boy be seen for a little bit, that the mature response will come online, right? And that was my stuff, right? Because I wasn't trusting. Like, then I was thrown into my panic of like, oh no, if I like let this little boy have his like little tantrum here, then that means that I'm not standing for a more mature relationship, and I'm accommodating little boy immature behavior. But maybe that would be true if I never stood for it, right? But what I'm seeing is like, what if I had space to just like see this little boy and not resist this little boy or have him be any other way, right? And just ask the little boy what he needed, and then listen for that, and then invite the adult to come in once the little boy feels heard versus like trying to force the adult in the room and push the little kid out of the room. You know what I mean? Is this resonating at all? Do you see this in your partnerships? So I just wanted to share. Yeah, we had this big expansion, then we have this contraction. Trying to, make it go back to that sub point of goodness we can have. And we both got a little flustered, right? And but this is it's all so good. We get to learn. We learn in these situations, oh, this is where I turned away from loving him. This is where I tried to bypass something to get to the more mature response, and this is where I didn't trust him. That I didn't trust that if I gave this little boy room that he would show up as an adult. That's revealing about me, right? And that actually is it's more reflection on me too than it is about my, perception of him is also a reflection of me, right? And how I see him or hold him and how I see and hold myself, all these things, right? It's just really revealing. So it's just powerful to witness these moments and let them teach us. And, so, when they say failing, what feels like in the past, something like this would totally have taken me out, and I would be like, oh no, our relationship's doomed, and this is terrible, and blah, see, we can't be happy, maybe we're not meant to be together, really go to all the places. Anybody else resonate with this? Or you just go to all the places of worst case scenario, and instead of just being with what is, and oh, there was something I wasn't willing to feel there. I was feeling a lot of my own grief of watching this little boy, and it was just really hard for me to be with that little boy, right? And so, yeah. Hi, Lakeisha. Thanks for jumping in, but I'm glad that you're resonating with us. So, yeah. Now I get why they say there's no failure. There's really just there is just either it's a yes or there's just learning. And now I really get it. That was such a beautiful experience to have that contraction. Instead of oh no, this bad thing happened in our relationship. No, actually, it's not bad. Actually, it's just called contraction. It's a sensation that feels eek. We went inward. We got smaller somehow. What can we learn about? What can we love about that? Where can we love even more? Ourselves and each other from this experience. So I love the contraction. It's bring it on. I get to learn how to love even better. I mean, I'll bring on the expansion too, please. I don't need to always bring contraction to learn love. I can create love in expansion too. Thank you very much. Thank you. I'll ask for all of the goodness. And it's just all good now. Now expansion, contraction, it's all good. It gets to be all for us, all for love. And so that's what I teach my clients in Lover. That's why it's called Lover. It's how to be a beautiful lover with depth and with tenderness and with fierceness and love without accommodation, championing without bypassing, creating shared agreements, amazing sex, and a life that you and your partner are excited to get in the sandbox together about, right? What are you up to? And so that's what keeps me and my husband Miguel in the sandbox. We've created agreements and we hit little snags, but the snags are just opportunities for more love. So we're always winning, right? So anyway, I want to teach you how to do that because I didn't know how to do that for the longest time. And it just causes a lot of undue suffering and for some people, unnecessary breakups. I'll say that. And that's one of my missions is to eliminate unnecessary breakups. Sometimes breakups are the true thing, but I think more often than not, it's because we don't actually know how to love well. We're not willing to feel that much, just like I wasn't willing to feel that much. So there's an example of me in real time, and I hope you can relate. Thank you so much for all the love. Yeah, it's definitely a learning experience. Our marriage has been struggling quite a bit. Yeah. I mean, welcome to long-term relationships. Right? It's an opportunity to learn how to love even better and to open to receiving even more love and to feeling even more. And sometimes I think at the end of the day, we're either willing or we're not. And then we get to notice where we contract and choose to turn away from love. And then we get to choose again, which is the beautiful thing. We get to keep recreating our commitments to our loved ones over and over again. as we choose. And so you are a powerful creator. Definitely been a learning experience for you. Thank you so much, Lakeisha. If you have any specific questions, I'd love to support you in that. I'm going to hop off now, but I will come back to this thread. And if you have any specific questions, and also I want to let you know that I have the Diamond Lab next week, which is going to be a 5-day commitment for $555. And we are going to dive into all of the power couple paradigms that I teach and the hot monogamy framework. And I'm going to do hot seat coaching. So juicy stuff. And I hope to see you there.